Welcome to Liberty Cafe. We've been open since March 13th of 2009. And the goal was community, conversation, and coffee. And I think we're doing a pretty good job with it. So I believe in people. I think people do best when they can bounce ideas and themselves off of other people. So I want to create a place where people can come and feel free to be who they are and to say what they need to say. Liberty encompasses the idea of people being able to gather freely and discuss things freely. Because we all still have the same social, trust that we work towards. And it's mostly unspoken, but it's very real. And so that's explored best in a free setting.
Hello, my name is Jupiter Graydon. I'm a traditional pen and pencil inking artist. I deal mostly in the paper, ink, and pencil medium. I've tried to extend my reach into digital art, but with little success. But I'm currently working on illustrating and writing a fan fiction graphic novel, which I also hope to animate. And I've got a couple pages of it here. This is going towards an online competition and art tournament, which I'm participating in on DeviantArt with artists all around the world. And right now I'm fighting. My opponent goes by the artist alias of the Evil Tea Drinker, and my artist alias is Schwarzwald. Basically, the rules are whoever can make the best entry, the best comic, wins the round, and whoever is most respectful to both characters, whoever is able to capture their essence the best. Here's a piece I'm rather proud of. I've only recently begun using inks and heavy shading. Before that, I was normally just a sketch and pencil artist, but now I'm trying to expand a little and grow. You see here, this is not as good of an example, but I'm trying to use more body language and poses and gestures, and you see he's got that aura about him. I'd spent a lot of time on that, but anyways, I've been drawing really as long as I can remember, like probably since I was 3 or 5 years old, and I've never really stopped. I've never given up on it. This is my father's cafe, and I was there while he was still working on opening it. It's really amazing how it's exploded and become so successful. I'm really glad it has. I love coming down here because it's a great community. There's lots of other people to hang out with, and I mean I don't drink coffee, but I still like coming down just to get some fresh air, and as you can see, a lot of other artists come down here too, and it's nice to interact with them.
I'm Dick Ringlow, and I'm an artist, and I like being around fellow artists, so that's why I'm at this event tonight. And my passion in life is cars, and I've been drawing pictures of them since I was a preschooler. And I found out in grade school there are people who design cars and draw big flashy color renderings of them for a living, and that their ideas are picked up on by the production people and put into production, whatever the production people and the marketing people like. And I thought, there is my dream job. And things didn't quite work out that way, and I'm not sure I handled all my opportunities well, and don't like what I think, so I refuse to think about it. And I finished school late in life on the GI Bill, majoring in industrial design transportation. And after doing various other kinds of work in our fallback position, we learned so much about making presentation renderings we can fall back on being graphic artists, which I was trained as anyway before I went back to school. And so now my ambition is to do drawings of classic cars to sell in art galleries and such. In fact, one of my customers is right here in the audience someplace, I think. I saw her a bit earlier. And I'm including in that the fantasy cars I've been drawing in my sketchbooks all my life. So I may even get to design something that gets put on the road. And in fact, I know some customizers, professional customizing shops, which I could in good conscience recommend to anyone who wants to do up my drawings full-size, street legal, and drivable. So I'm doing what I'd always wanted to do since I was a kid, or rather getting started in it. So I like it here because I meet fellow artists here, and Mike, who runs it, was a barista in the place I used to go to all the time up the street, which is out of business now. So I like supporting him in his barista passion.
I'm appreciative of Mike here allowing us to have art jam at the Liberty Cafe in Renton, so I can perfect my craft when there's time to do it, because I'm a very busy individual. So I'm able to come down, talk to other artists, work with people that are using other art forms and types. Like there's a guy that throws clay. There's another person that does screen painting. There's a few poets, a few musicians, and it's just really cool when everybody gets together. It's like one gigantic glob of creativity.
I come here frequently enough that I didn't know her name, and she knows who I am.
I go by the artist name of Celestial Bean, and I am a local artist in Renton, Washington. I was born and raised in the city. I've known Mike Moskowitz, the owner of the Liberty Cafe, for quite some time. I've always participated in the art community down here, and finally felt like I was ready to present my art to the public. So ceramics, the 3D is kind of a new medium for me. I lost my job earlier this year, so I spent the summer trying to develop a new craft, a new trade. And I took apprenticeship under an established lowbrow artist of the name of David Cohen. And he taught me how to mold, make, and sculpt. All the ceramics are fired locally just down the street. Well, for my most popular character, who's called the Minion, I was actually trying to sculpt another one of my characters named Teddy Wellington. So he was kind of an accident when I got frustrated and gave him one eye and just kind of made him by mistake. So he's my little guy, and I just spun off from there and just kind of floated off into the realm of monsters, and that's how that happened.
Aren't some of your characters in your drawings, though, they look elementals, fairies? And are they elementals, like fairies?
No, I feel like my art is typically just demonstrating the different sides of myself, just in particular the different emotions that most people can relate to. So that is my way of just branching out of a specific mood or place or feeling that I've had. It's kind of hard to put into words, but yeah, I wouldn't, it's just kind of wherever that place you go to is. If you want to brand it as a fairy, then who am I to stop you? I've been drawing longer than I could talk, probably. And I remember when I was a small child, they always tried to tell me that I was using the wrong hand to draw, and I insisted I wasn't, so I actually became ambidextrous. So, yeah. See, I've always drawn. I guess the reason why I create is to express myself in a way that might possibly reach out to another person that may have felt the same way that I did in the moment I created it, and try somehow to make other people feel less alone in this vast, chaotic universe that we live in.
Is this your first art show?
This is my first art show. It's a little nerve-wracking. So it's kind of like I'm exposing my soul up to the world for the first time. I'm normally a very introverted person, so it's interesting. Here I am, you guys. What you think? Fun. Let's see. Oh yeah, and I'm sporting a cane right now because I got hit by a car a couple of days ago. So it was kind of an interesting last final touch to the preparations of my show when I'm just in the process of finishing up, tightening all those loose ends and nuts and bolts. Tragedy strikes, but obviously I have overcome it and turned it into a rockin' fashion accessory.
Hi, my name is Kevin Benton, and this is the series Homelessness in King County with a focus on nutrition. Today, we have registered dietitian Joy Supplee. How are you doing today, Joy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right. Why is proper nutrition important?
Proper nutrition is very important in the growth and development of kids, including cognitive development, and it's very important in health maintenance and prevention of disease in both children and adults. As a matter of fact, poor nutrition actually plays a part in many chronic diseases, including diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. And lack of appropriate nutrients would also contribute to mood imbalances, emotional disturbances and instability, and difficulty handling stress.
How does this affect the homeless?
Homeless children and adults can have a difficult time getting the nutrition that they need. If they're living in a shelter, oftentimes they're relying on donated food, and there may be overcrowding, making that donated food more difficult to get. If they're living in a car, they may also be relying on donated food, but they may also be choosing cheap fast food as their main food sources. Also, if living in a car, parents often will forego their own meals in favor of their children not going hungry. When living in a shelter or in a car, because of high stress situations, they're often choosing comfort foods or junk foods, and these can lead to weight gain and poor nutrition quality overall. Yet these comfort and junk foods are often the most commonly donated foods. And if a parent or a child has food allergies or food sensitivities, it's very difficult to supply for in either situation, and this could lead to more chronic health issues, as well as children missing school. I took a look at several studies, and it turns out that, having been documented, homeless children suffer several medical problems, including asthma and ear infections, higher rates of fever, cold, coughs, diarrhea, and obesity, and greater incidence of infections, fatigue, headaches, and anemia, as well as impaired cognitive development. Homeless adults, according to these studies, also suffered several medical conditions due to undernutrition, and these include anemia, dental problems, gastric ulcers, other gastrointestinal complaints, cardiovascular disease or heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and infectious diseases, diabetes, and malnutrition. Due to some of the poorer food sources that homeless people are often settling for, we have noticed that there are deficits in B vitamins, vitamin C, zinc, calcium, thiamine, folic acid, magnesium, and iron.
All right. It's very interesting. Can you speak from an experience what you may have seen in the homeless community?
I can. As a matter of fact, I did part of my internship doing volunteer nutrition classes at a local women and children's shelter. And what I learned from my experience, both in teaching the nutrition classes and in working in the kitchen, was that, again, they're having to rely on donated food for a lot of their food. They do have some limited funds for purchasing food, but these are very limited. Oftentimes, the foods that they have donated are poor in nutrition quality, maybe because they have to be foods or shelf stable, and they're often high in trans or saturated fats, sugar, and salt. They also have less availability of fresh fruit and other vegetable produce. Oftentimes, the people in the shelters are more focused on survival than they are on better nutrition. And in most cases, they are lacking in nutrition education as well. Again, being in a high-stress situation, they're often choosing comfort foods rather than more nutritious foods. An example of that would be choosing a donut over an apple.
But don't we have social programs and Medicare, Medicaid to provide nutrition education and health care?
Well, it's interesting. Medicaid actually does not cover nutrition classes or nutrition counseling for anyone over the age of 20 unless they have diabetes already. And Medicare does not provide nutrition counseling for anyone except those with diabetes or kidney disease. Now, there are some free nutrition education websites available, including one from the USDA called mypyramid.com. But you must have a computer available, and most often that's going to be found in public libraries. And there are several programs through the government that are available, including the Food Stamp Program, the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, better known as WIC, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Community Food and Nutrition Program. School breakfast and lunch programs provide 2 out of 3 meals per day, not including dinner, but some of the summer meal programs have already been cut due to lack of state funding resources. And the Child Nutrition Act which is responsible for all of these different programs, has to be reauthorized every 5 years.
I know that fruits and vegetables are an important part of an everyday diet. How can these things be accessible for the homeless community?
Well, in the shelters, they're relying on donations a lot of the times, and during the summer and spring when there are bumper crops, a lot of times they'll get overage from those crops. But there are going to be not a lot of selections at the time. And then there are organizations that will go around and glean some of the extra produce that's maybe on its way to spoiling at a supermarket, and then they'll bring those things by. And so oftentimes people are having choices of produce that's on its way out, is really maybe overripe, definitely likely bruised. And then if they have the choice, given a fresh donut or an apple example, or an apple day after day after day based on the last load, a lot of them will just choose the donut instead. Well, this oftentimes contributes to the problem of the poor nutrition. It's multifactorial. There's the emotional component of being under stress and choosing things that maybe make you feel comforted, like when you were a child. But then there's the other part about not having the nutrition education maybe to even understand that those fresh fruits and vegetables are going to help with the long run. The donut is the immediate satisfaction, but the apple might be something that helps prevent disease down the road. And that's a really tough choice to make for someone who's in a homeless situation.
You mentioned something about food allergies or sensitivities. How does that play here?
Well, I do specialize in food sensitivities and food allergies in my dietetic practice. Food sensitivities could involve any sort of food, the most benign thing you could think of. Some people have sensitivities to apples, some people have sensitivities to bananas, as an example. So if your only choice of fresh fruit for that day was a banana or an apple, you might choose to go without, or you might choose to have that thing if you're very hungry, but then you would suffer the symptoms as a consequence. And those symptoms could vary. They could include gastrointestinal disturbances, something that might keep you out of school, or you might have headaches or migraines, or you might have skin problems. And then this isn't going to help with the child getting the schooling that they need either.
I understand you've had some work in the school districts.
I did. Also during my internship experience, I worked in a school district that actually has usually more resources than some of the other school districts. The reason they have more resources is because in their community, they tend to have some wealthy along with some poor, but they usually have their levies passed. And this doesn't really affect the food resources in this particular school district. That would be more about teachers, numbers of teachers, and equipment in the classrooms. As far as food goes, that is supported by state and federal funding. And again, that's about the Child Nutrition Act. So school lunch programs, school breakfast programs, those are funded by the federal government. And as a matter of fact, this summer there has been some state funding cuts, and so we're not able to feed as many people during the summer as we have in the past, assuming that the children have the transportation to get to the schools to even pick up the foods that they're being provided with. So those resources are not available right now. And I think it's interesting to note that we tend to think of sharing our food, feeding the homeless more during the Thanksgiving season. There are a lot of funding drives and meal programs that come up then, but we tend to forget about that in the summer as we go on our busy lives. And so with the cuts in the programs and the lack of focus on feeding the homeless, then a lot of kids are going to go hungry this summer.
I could definitely see this difficulty with nutrition. It is on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Basic survival comes before any other amenities such as nutrition.
And you're exactly right, and that's what I observed at the Women and Children's Shelter. Even though I was there to provide free nutrition education, I was there for about 3 months and we did a weekly series. I found that the interest level wasn't really as high as it might have been in a different community. And honestly, they're more concerned about just surviving, being safe, and what are they going to do if they can't stay in the shelter anymore? What's the next step? How do they get to the next step in their lives? And things like the nutrition of fruits and vegetables, the knowledge of that just didn't seem quite as important at the time, and I can certainly understand that. But then the additional problem, even if you're not thinking about nutrition and you're more thinking of survival, actually poor nutrition is going to make survival that much harder for many reasons. If your nutrition is poor, it's going to contribute to emotional instability. That's going to make it harder to focus and concentrate and learn what you need to learn to maybe get a new job as an adult or as a child, to even do well in school and get good grades.